Frontline, RTX, and ExxonMobil now sit directly downstream of a war that has turned the Strait of Hormuz into an uncomfortable profit engine. I mean, the collapsed US-Iran truce has made tankers scarcer, munitions more valuable, and every available barrel of oil more expensive. But these aren't three versions of the same trade. Frontline benefits when ships stay trapped or rerouted. ExxonMobil benefits when oil stays expensive, and RTX, well, it benefits when missile inventories have to be rebuilt. But investors can't ignore a single warning here. Two trades could unwind the day the peace is signed. Only one may actually keep working after the shooting stops. Well, in this video, you're going to learn what's happening around Hormuz, why the conflict is reshaping shipping, defense, and energy, and how those changes could affect these three companies from here. But before we begin, if you're new to the channel, hello, my name is Rick Orford. I'm a Wall Street Journal bestselling author, been trading since 1999, and no, I'm not a financial advisor. But that's a good thing, because I'm right here with you, breaking down the numbers so retail investors like us can make smarter, more confident decisions with our money. I want to thank The Motley Fool for sponsoring this video. The Motley Fool is a company that provides investing insight and stock recommendations for investors of all skill sets and risk levels. And you all know how much I love researching new stocks and trying to find the next best investment. So I'm proud to partner with The Motley Fool to bring you 10 stock picks from their popular product, Stock Advisor. Stock Advisor has beaten the market by almost 6 times. Go to fool.com/Ricko to get your 10 stock picks right now. All right, so let's start with where things actually stand, because the setup has changed pretty quick. The peace deal is dead. The United States and Iran signed a memorandum of understanding on June 17th, and it was supposed to wind down the conflict within 60 days. But it only lasted about 3 weeks. In early July, Iran reportedly struck 3 commercial ships that had sailed outside its approved route. Then, July 7th, the U.S. government had declared the truce over. And since then, the fighting has been relentless. Central Command wrapped up its 13th straight night of strikes on July 23rd, targeting command centers, drone facilities, and coastal surveillance sites. And American forces have carried out more than 100 strikes since July 8th. And Iranian officials put the toll at around 50 casualties and more than 500 wounded, while the United States reinstated its naval blockade. Talks have gone nowhere. Iran rejected Washington's ceasefire proposal on July 23rd. Trump then told Axios that he was weighing a massive strike and was close to making a call. And now, before I go any further, I do want to mention my community, which has been one of the fastest growing investing communities right here on YouTube. We talk about specific companies, what they're doing, and options trading every single day. Best part is it's completely free to join. Just scan the QR code right here on the screen or check and click the link in the description. Now, going back, this conflict isn't staying inside Iran's borders. Houthi militants struck 2 Saudi tankers in the Red Sea while enforcing their blockade against Riyadh. Kuwait shot down hostile targets, sirens sounded in Bahrain, and Jordan intercepted Iranian missiles. But the number I keep coming back to is in the Strait of Hormuz. Only 15 ships have reportedly passed through it on July 19th. Before the war, that daily average was closer to 100, about 88 actually. So traffic was down roughly 83% from normal levels. And the result, Brent closed up over $100 on July 23rd, up about 7% in one single session and more than 30% for the month. And the supply backdrop is already tight. According to reports, Middle Eastern production is down more than 11 million barrels a day. And inventories are at their lowest levels since 2003, and U.S. commercial stocks are at their weakest seasonal level since 2014. So the cushion, guys, it's gone. Every headline lands on a market with almost nothing left to absorb it. So where do you actually look in a market like this? Well, I'm looking at 3 companies that are tied to 3 things the war is making more valuable: the ships, the missiles, and the oil barrels. Let's start with the ships. The company I'm watching is Frontline. It's one of the largest publicly traded pure-play crude tanker companies with a fleet of 81 vessels. And most of that fleet consists of very large crude carriers, or VLCCs. So these tankers can haul roughly 2 million barrels per trip. So how does Frontline make money? Well, when routes become dangerous, tankers have to sail farther to deliver the oil. More days at sea keeps vessels occupied longer, and each voyage can generate more revenue. So scarce, safe passage becomes the actual product here. And that's why the steadiest winners haven't necessarily been those that are drilling or refining. They've been the companies that actually own the boats. And the stock reflects that, rising nearly 130% over the last year and more than 600% over the last 5 years. And rates for VLCCs running from the Middle East to Asia have reached their highest level since records began in November of 2005. And then the financials followed. First quarter revenue came in at $714.2 million, while net profit reached $559.1 million, or $2.55 a share. The chief executive called it the company's most profitable quarter since 2004. Frontline also locked in much of its second quarter ahead of time, booking 82% of VLCC days at about $182,000 a day, and 79% of Suezmax days at about $131,000 a day. At current rates, management estimates that the company can generate around $1.5 billion in cash, or roughly $7 a share. And the balance sheet holds $945 million in cash with no meaningful debt maturities until 2030. And the dividend increased about 50%. But this is the most sensitive position in the three. If a real peace deal reopens the strait, tanker rates would fall quickly, and then the stock will probably unwind with them. And the CEO has basically said the same thing himself. He noted that traffic through Hormuz should pick right back up if Washington and Tehran reach an agreement. So Frontline may offer the strongest immediate exposure to the choke point, but it also carries the clearest peace risk. And that brings me to missiles. RTX Corporation sits directly in the middle of what this conflict burns through every single day. 13 nights of strikes and constant interceptions around the Gulf can deplete inventories quickly, and every interceptor fired eventually has to be replaced. Unfortunately, that's the business. RTX is a major supplier of missile defense, air superiority, and precision strike systems. And recent awards include a $1.1 billion Navy contract and a $515 million SPY-6 contract. And the company's performance has been pretty steady. Revenue rose more than 14% to $24.7 billion, with net income increasing about 29% to more than $2.1 billion, all with operating cash flow surging about 800% to about $4.16 billion. And the stock up around 36% over the past year and more than 170% over the past 5 years. But the backlog is the much bigger story here. RTX closed the quarter with a record $289 billion in orders, up 22% from a year ago. And that includes $170 billion in commercial orders and $119 billion in defense orders. Free cash flow reached $2.9 billion, compared with essentially nothing a year ago. Now, the Raytheon segment, of course, matters the most for this particular discussion. Sales there climbed 18% to $8.3 billion, and management pointed to higher volume on Patriot, Standard Missile, and AMRAAM as the main drivers. Those are exactly the kind of systems that are being consumed right now around the Gulf. But unlike Frontline, RTX doesn't need the war to continue forever. Even after a ceasefire, fired missiles have to be replaced, allied inventories have to be rebuilt, and future readiness needs to be funded. And that's why RTX is a durable name in the group. And management has raised guidance across the board. Adjusted sales have moved to the range of between $95 and $96 billion, up from $92.5 to $93.5 billion. And earnings guidance has increased to between $7.10 to $7.25, up from $6.70 to $6.90 on an adjusted basis. And there's more funding that's sitting behind the company. Fiscal 2027 requests allocate $60 billion to munitions, while the House adopted a $95 billion proposal to fund the Iran war. The catch here is that investors are paying for that certainty. RTX is the least dependent on continued fighting, but the market already understands that. It already offers durability, not necessarily the cheapest entry. Now let's move on to the barrels. ExxonMobil gives investors the most direct line from this conflict to energy earnings. Every barrel Iran can't ship raises the value of every barrel that Exxon can sell. When supply stays tight, large integrated producers can earn more on each single barrel of oil they sell. And Exxon also pairs with Frontline rather than simply duplicating the same trade. Frontline needs the Strait to remain dangerous. Exxon needs oil to remain expensive. Those conditions kind of like overlap, but they're not identical. Now, over the past year, ExxonMobil is up about 47%, while its 5-year gain reached roughly 231%. Now, if you've been watching any of these stocks and you'd like to own one, but think, look, right now while you're watching this video, you think, just too expensive. Well, if there is a stock that you'd like to buy, check this video up here, because I talk about how you can sell a put option on a stock you want to own and get paid to wait for it to potentially coming down to your price. And if it does come down to your price, you get to buy it, you got paid to buy it as well. Now, going back, the earnings, they're following the oil move. Energy Products, which is Exxon's refining business, generated $2.8 billion in earnings, excluding identified items and estimated timing effects in the first quarter. That was about $1.9 billion more than a year ago. Company management has signaled another $5 billion in earnings growth from the first quarter to the second. Exxon's market cap is now above $650 billion, so investors can build or reduce a position without worrying about being trapped in a thinly traded name. But the risk here is obvious. A large part of Energy's 2026 run has been driven by the war premium rather than some sudden improvement in the underlying businesses. And when that premium disappears, the stocks that's tied to it is going to fall fast. Just look at the round trip here. Crude reached a 2026 high of $114.58 in April. It fell to the low 70s earlier this month and then climbed back over 100 in the last week. That entire move happened in less than 4 months. So even if Hormuz remains technically open, the premium could fade before Exxon reports again. And investors have to be honest about this risk. These aren't core positions. These are small additions sized so that a signed ceasefire, well, it stings without doing any real damage. It would be easy to dress this up as 3 separate bets, but it isn't. Frontline and Exxon can move together on a peace headline because both are really tied to oil. But RTX is different. Its backlog, replacement demand, and munitions restocking can continue, and probably will if the Strait reopens even tomorrow. So what you really have here is one durable holding next to 2 positions that benefit most if the war continues. That doesn't make Frontline or Exxon bad trades. It just means that sizing has to reflect the risk. Frontline could offer the strongest upside if shipping stays constrained. And Exxon could offer the cleanest exposure to a sustained oil price. And RTX, well, it may offer the best chance of holding up after the conflict cools down. But the next catalysts are clear. I'm going to be watching whether Iranian production actually goes dark and whether massive strikes come back or stop or what happens next, because any one of these developments could actually change the trade quickly. But now I want to turn it over to you. Do you think the Strait of Hormuz stays constrained long enough for companies like Frontline and Exxon to keep benefiting? Or does peace arrive before investors can capture the continued upside? And is RTX the only one of these 3 stocks that still works after the war is over? And before I go, did I get any of this right? Did I forget something? Let me know all of that and more in the comments below. And while you're there, if you found the video helpful, don't forget to like and subscribe, because it really does help others find the video, it supports the channel, and it makes sure that you don't miss out on my next deep dive. Well, that's it for me today. Thank you so much for watching. I hope to see you again here on YouTube or in my community. Bye for now.